How's it going, everybody? My name is Technical Sergeant Tim, and I'm a section chief here at the Vehicle Management Schoolhouse in beautiful Port Hueneme, California for the United States Air Force. Or, as you guys have more commonly come to know me as, Ryan. Now I'm going to talk to you today about creativity as a construct. And what I mean by that is what motivates other people to perceive a certain individual as creative. Is it their family or their upbringing? How about the relationships that they maintain or the life experiences that they've had? How about formal or informal education? Or let me ask you this, are all creators the same? Or is it instead these differences amongst the different creators that motivate them to adopt a creative nature? Now, I don't have all these answers. I'm not going to even pretend to lie to you. However, I will provide you a roadmap as to a common understanding for what makes a creative person creative. Let's begin by addressing 7 different creators, delving into their cultural backgrounds as well as their origins to try to understand some similarities as well as differences amongst them. Our first creator hails from Italy and was a filmmaker as well as a director. Our next was originally from New York and became a physicist as well as a professor. The third creator was originally from Oklahoma, then moved to Arizona, and then New Mexico, where he established himself until he graduated and went on to college, eventually becoming an author, a poet, and a professor in his own right, instructing at many different prestigious universities across the United States. Our next came from Germany. He was a professor of philosophy, teaching at Germany as well as Japan, so a little diversity there. The next creator, originally from Cuba, but at 6 years old, his parents moved him to Italy, where he resided until he passed. He eventually became a fiction writer. The sixth creator was originally from Oregon, becoming a mechanic, and then more recently an instructor for the military. And then our final creator, originally from Illinois, but moved to New York, and eventually became a contemporary performance artist, as well as a professor as well. So what we've already identified are some similarities, but for the most part, it is very vast as far as the creative outreaches that these personnel have. They are not any one specific craft. There are similarities amongst their teaching abilities, but other than that, their reach on the community, on the world, is vastly different. So maybe there are more similarities when it comes to impressionable ages. Let's jump into that. Our first was raised in a very spiritual upbringing. What I mean by that is he was raised Roman Catholic and then eventually kind of defied his parents a little bit in that regard. He wanted to branch out on his own. Our next was the son of 2 Jewish immigrants, and he later was a devout atheist. So he believed strongly in Judaism and then switched it over to not believing in any higher power, which in itself is kind of a spiritual belief. The third, during World War II in Italy, he joined a young, impressionable fascist group where he began to hone his skills. He was writing for their journals. And then post-World War II, actually wrote for a communist journal, which was very impressionable for him. It instilled certain ideals that he eventually became very passionate about until his dying days. Our next was raised on Indian reservations, so again, very spiritual. One with the earth. His parents were constantly instilling a oneness with his surroundings and with nature. Our next was a medic, a German medic in World War I, and then post-World War I actually joined the Nazi Party, which contributed to his later promotions in his profession. Our sixth creator here, joined the military at a very young age. He grew up in a spiritual atmosphere as well, and he was constantly in search of something just to kind of believe in, and ultimately joined the military. And then our last creator over here, the seventh one, She grew up in 1960s Chicago, where she was surrounded by violence, activism, protests that ultimately shaped the very person that she became as an adult. So again, there are some similarities, but for the most part, they are very different. They all believed in something. They were all passionate about something, but those somethings were very different amongst these creators. Next, let's address some achievements and awards that these creators have won almost as a byproduct of their contributions to their craft. Our first creator was nominated for 12 separate Academy Awards and won a Lifetime Achievement Award. Our next investigated the Challenger shuttle incident and was the main contributor to the development of the atomic bomb. In 1954, he won the Albert Einstein Award, and in 1965 won the Nobel Prize for Physics. Our third creator published 10 books and was a recipient of 12 separate Literary Excellence Awards. Our fourth led the Native American Renaissance and won a Pulitzer Prize for his first book in 1969. And in 2007, he won the National Medal of Arts, which was presented by President George W. Bush. Our fifth creator was the head of an entire philosophy department and the leading official for the entire university at one point. Our sixth effectively managed millions of dollars of military assets and continues to mold young military members. And then our last is a self-published author, poet, musician, and appeared in numerous movies, which still actively contributes to how she teaches at the New York Institute of Arts. Now let's talk about their family, their relationships, okay? So for instance, this guy had two siblings, a wife, and unfortunately lost two separate children. One was a miscarriage and the other one passed away when it was only a month old, which contributed to his work of art. It was actually very dark and very morbid. It's what he was known for. This guy was very close to his parents, had very supportive parents growing up. He had 3 total marriages, 2 divorces, one that stuck until he passed, and he also had 2 children, one adopted, one biologically his. This guy right here had supportive parents. This is a common theme, is that I noticed that supportive parents largely contributed to the majority, if not all, of these creators. So this one had supportive parents, also a loving wife, and also a daughter. This guy, his parents were school teachers and helped kind of push his creative side. Very supportive in their own right as far as spirituality and understanding his heritage. He was never married, never had children. This one up here had very supportive parents. Again, that common thread, that common theme that I noticed. One wife, but had no children. This one right here, also married 3 times. Divorced twice, one that stuck. Has 3 total children, all biologically his, and was the oldest sibling. And then we got this individual here who had a supportive mother who still goes to all of her recitals and performances, was divorced as well as having 1 daughter. Now, I kind of highlighted a little bit supportive parents, okay? What I didn't highlight is that a lot of these actually had failed marriages. So it shows that they tried something, they attempted something, but did not succeed the first time. That's something that's very important to a creator, is that you don't just give up after something doesn't work a single time. Yes, we have these outliers over here that were never married, but for the most part, each one of these creators tried something and failed at least once, if not more. So we haven't exactly talked about their personalities yet. Each creator brings something different to the table. Some of them have similarities, yes, but the majority of them are very different personality-wise. Take, for instance, this first guy was very charismatic and passionate and enthusiastic. Some would call him charismatic. He was very confident in his abilities and didn't take anybody's outside criticism seriously. He knew what his self-worth was, and he pressed forward with what he was trying to accomplish. This next guy was very curious, very playful, passionate in his own right. He actually encouraged playfulness and curiosity within his own career field, finding that people that didn't were boring. This third creator was very observant and imaginative. He kind of had to be, right? I mean, he didn't know how to write, he didn't know how to read until much later than the other children around him. So he had to create this observation and this internalization of the imagery that he saw, which later provided the foundation for his work and his career. We have another passionate creator right here, but he was very authentic. He approached his career in a very caring and nurturing way, and he was very prideful in his heritage. This creator right here was very determined. He loved incremental processes and understanding exactly how things worked. Step-by-step processes is what his forte was. He enjoyed philosophy and the understanding behind different actions, but he was actually fairly easily swayed if he could not understand a process. We have this next creator right here. He was very fun, passionate, prideful, caring, and nurturing of others, which largely contributes to what he continues to do today. And then our last creator is very fun-loving. She is deeply nurturing, deeply caring, and chooses to find humor in pretty much everything that she does. She was subject to some trauma early on in her life, which largely contributes to her body of work, but she uses humor as a way to almost escape and instead bring joy to others and highlight very real issues that we have amongst society. One major commonality amongst all of these creators presented in front of you is that they attended some sort of formal education, formal higher education. Now, don't get me wrong, there are exceptions. This first guy right here was a college dropout. He attended school in Rome just to satisfy his parents' wants, but in reality, he dropped out after a couple of weeks and got picked up by a magazine writing articles that he'd been following since childhood. It was kind of like a childhood dream of his, and so he assumed that role, and then his career took off from there. But other than that, everybody else got advanced degrees. So this first guy right here got a bachelor's from MIT and a master's as well as a PhD at Princeton. Now this person right here got a degree in literature, so coinciding with his chosen career path. This person got a doctorate from Stanford, as well as 12, yes, I said 12, honorary degrees from various American universities. This creator got a Master of Fine Arts, which has allowed her to be a professor at New York Institute of Art. This creator right here has 2 associates, a bachelor's, and is almost done with his master's program, which is enabling him to further his career as well as develop his skills for later in life. And then finally, this guy got an advanced degree in philosophy, which allowed him to teach not only in Germany, but also in Japan. Everybody, at one point or another, followed their education, with the exception of this guy. But even still, informal education came quite abundantly for him as far as writing in different journals and then filmmaking. But everybody else had both formal and informal education in abundance, which allowed them to perform at their peak within their chosen career paths. Notice that these puzzle pieces, these 7 individuals with 5 puzzle pieces, have the same color code that makes up a whole person. Why I chose to do that is because, yes, I talked about similarities, yes, I talked about differences, but each person in their own right embraced their passions and chose to be creative about it. Not only were they content in the general guidelines of their careers, instead they decided to branch out and venture and promote not only themselves, but the betterment of our society, the betterment of their culture, and they were very successful in their own right. So what I'm getting at here is that everybody can be a creator. Everybody has the ability to impact themselves, their culture, their career fields, whatever you choose. You just have to decide that you want to be creative and then practice. It's not going to come easy. Each one of these guys have their trials and tribulations. But you do have to put forth effort, be willing to fail, and ultimately you will be creative in your own mind. So, to reveal, Federico Fellini, Richard Feynman, Italo Calvino, N. Scott Mummaday, Karen Finley, Eugene Herringel, and even me. We can all be creators. What's important is that you practice and that you believe in yourself. And not only believe in yourself, but you got to appreciate that you are guiding your children. A lot of these members, these creators, had supportive parents that helped them, that nurtured their creative side. So please be cognizant that not only are you creating for yourself, but you are developing common practice within your own household and within your old community. Believe in yourself.